Hi everybody, welcome back to the spinning barn on this beautiful day, and we have Ted down here, look, sunbathing. Can you believe that? Sunbathing in March. Let's make the most of it, shall we? But whilst I'm sitting here today, I thought we would talk about wraps per inch. So what wraps per inch is, why it matters, how we use it, and the tools that we need to do that as well. So let's think about what wraps per inch actually is. So wraps per inch it's a measurement. It's the amount of times your yarn wraps around your tool, I'll show you those in a second, to give you the thickness or the gauge of your yarn that you're spinning. So if you just come closer, James, because you're filming me and I don't want to do any editing, so this is great. I've got some tools here that just show you what we actually use. Now, you can use anything. You can use a ruler, you can use a pencil with an inch marked on it. I've got this little tool here where I've got a 1/2 inch gap and a full inch here, and you literally wrap your yarn around it. And if I just show you with this beautiful blue mohair, gosh, you know, I spun this years ago. This is from my own sheep, my own Angora, what are they? Mohair goats, yeah. Angora goats, yes, mohair. Right, 1, 2, let's get back to this. 3, 4. So you wrap around 5, 6, 7, gently, 8, 9, 10, not pulling it too tightly, 11, but also making sure that you cover all of the wood so that you don't see the wood underneath. What was that? 11, wasn't it? Yeah. Oops. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-ish. Okay, so that tells me I've got 15 wraps per inch here. The other way we can do it is, I've got a couple of different tools here. This one is one by Hilltop Cloud, which is great. And obviously I've got the one here that James makes us here at the spinning barn. And this again is more visual. So with this one, you lay the yarn along the dark coloured indentations, if you like. And again, just hold it really gently, just so that it's in its natural state, to determine the thickness of that yarn. Now, we said this was 15 wraps per inch, and I'm still hesitating here between 11 for worsted and 14 for DK. So in this case, what I'd have to do is knit with this really and work out a gauge and check my needle size, for example, because not all gauges are the same, and it also depends on the way that we actually wrap it around in the first place. You know, if you pull it a little bit too tight, you're going to make it thinner. If you leave it too loose, it could just be thicker and your count is going to be different. So this really is, although it's pretty accurate, it's really a guide. There's no substitute for checking whilst you're spinning, but then checking that afterwards. Once you've washed and set, totally finished your yarn, just knit that little tension square, particularly if you've got a project in mind that requires a specific weight of yarn, okay? So that can differ very much after you've washed it. So that's the biggest tip I can give you. However, we can also just use this as a guide for checking consistency. If consistency is something that you're working on with your spinning, so that you're trying to get a nice uniform even yarn, which mine doesn't look very even at the moment, bear with me, okay? Gosh, this is so real, isn't it? You see, we all have the same problems. Let me just get that going again. Okay, so I could say to myself, I am just spinning to practice, and I just want to know that the beginning of my bobbin, or the yarn on my bobbin, is going to be the same as the yarn at the end of my bobbin when I finished it, because as we spin or we fill a bobbin, it can take a while. Things can change, you know, you can get more tired, you might feel more awake, you never know. Could be in a bad mood, could be in a good mood, could be a hot day, your hands are getting sticky, you could be feeling cold and your fingers don't work, all sorts of reasons, okay? So what I'm going to do is say, I think this is how I want this yarn to look. I quite like this at the moment, but what is it? Okay, so I'm going to take my little chart here and I'm going to measure what I've just spun. Now, it doesn't matter what it is. It makes no difference when you're just doing this for an exercise. Ooh, I think I'm going to go for 20 fingering weight, okay? Doesn't matter what it comes out at. The idea of this is simply that you spin a bit, test it, spin a bit more, and test it again. So let's have another look, see if we're still the same. Oh, this is real, isn't it? Because I'm doing this and James is filming me for real. And yes, it's still at 20. But what could have happened, as I said, something could change. And I have now deliberately changed this, and I'll tell you how I've changed it. As I'm drafting it, I'm actually bringing my fingers further back into the fibre supply, which means I'm actually picking up more fibres and drafting more fibres, which should mean that this yarn is going to be thicker. So let's have a little look at that. Well, that section isn't, but that section here was. Okay, let's have a look. There we go. That's more like 14 actually, just there. Okay, so I did further back. I did spin it a bit thicker. So yeah, that section there is 14. And if you look closely with that against my leg, you can probably see that I've got a thinner section and a thicker section and a thinner section, which isn't terribly consistent. I can see that just by looking at it. But sometimes these changes are quite subtle. And if you do want that perfection, then the best way to do it really is to measure it and check. Don't worry about it too much though, because we're human and sometimes things are different, and that is what makes our yarn unique to us as well. However, there are times when it's got to be right, hasn't it? So I hope that's helped. It's just a really quick look at how to use your tools. And even if you haven't got these tools, as I say, you can simply use a ruler, a pencil with a mark on it, anything, as long as you wrap it nice and gently, just keeping that yarn comfortable in itself. And remember to do it after you have washed and dried it. Okay, because that makes a huge difference. Your yarn can change considerably when you wash it. I've recently measured one before it was washed and again after it was washed, and it shrunk by 3 centimetres. It also bloomed, which means that those fibres shrunk a little bit lengthways, expanded a bit widthways, and made a completely different yarn. So if I thought that my skein, when it comes off my niddy noddy, was finished, and I measured it then, I would be sorely disappointed when I come to finish it and realise it was quite different. There we go, there's my tip of the day. So I hope that's helped you. Let me know if that has helped you or not. I'm sure it will do. And any other tips that you might have for using your wraps per inch gauge. Okay, lovely, speak to you all soon. Bye.